Part 2 on how I turned my regular Queen of Shadows copy into a special edition hardcover. Today we're going to be learning about how to actually make that hardcover. You'll need the majority of the materials from part 1, plus some book cloth, some board. I think here I have a 2mm thick board, some cardstock, as well as other ruling and measuring materials. So basically what you want to do here is measure for the height and the width of the two front and back panels for your hardcover, as well as for your spine. Here you can see I'm using a triangle measurement, which really helps with keeping those right angles, as well as I have a station where it hooks basically onto the back of that triangle, so that way my board is even on all sides. I'm taking my ruler and making sure everything is measured correctly. I'll add some measurements on screen here to what I usually use for these measurements because, to be honest, this has been a pain to learn over time. It's been a trial and error process for me, but this is how I go about doing that. And here are the measurements on the screen right now. So once we get to a good spot where we have all of our components together, we're going to want to start creating basically like a bone or ghost structure of the actual hardcover. This is useful for a few reasons. The first being that you will have basically an understanding of what that cover will look like and you can adjust accordingly, as well as this will make sure once you're gluing your board to your book cloth, everything is already measured out and ready to go. You don't have to worry about things sliding over time. So you can see here I'm using a piece of cardstock that I cut out kind of as a center point. I glue the spine onto that, and then I will glue the two wings onto each side to basically create that skeletal structure of the book. Now I'm going to take my 7mm spacer. I bought this off of Etsy, but you could also make your own. And I use 7mm for the majority of the books that I make, but you could also use 10mm if you want a different look, as well as if the book is really thick. And I use this spacer to then go between the spine and the hardcover board. This will allot for a space, basically a hinge, creating that natural hinging feature on the skeleton of this book hardcover. Now you are ready to attach this skeleton to the actual book cloth itself. Usually before I do this, I double check to make sure that this looks good on my text block, making sure that it's as high and as long as I want. The hinges are good because this is the time that you have to adjust it. So basically what I do now is exactly what, as you can anticipate, I glue it to the book cloth, making sure I have the side where it's that film on the book cloth. I want to make sure that soft texture is on the outside and I'm gluing it on the right side of the book cloth. I then make sure I press down on the other side to make sure there's no kind of glue bubbles or air bubbles in the back. You want it as flush to the actual board as you can get it. And I just glue the rest of the board on one at a time to make sure that everything is seamless and the board is now glued to the book cloth. The next step in this process is cutting the corners. So I use this tool I got off of Etsy. It cuts the corners, leaving a 3mm kind of gap at the corner, and that will enable me to fold over the book cloth seamlessly. I highly recommend buying one of these. To be honest, this is a really difficult thing to do by your eye, but you can if you need to. Just take a ruler and do the same thing. And I'll show you why this is important in a second. So now it is finally time to glue all the sides over. So what you're going to do is go for the long side first. Always the long side first. You're going to get glue on that side and basically just fold it over and then go to the other long side and do the same thing. Make sure it's flush, make sure there's no excess glue, and then you're going to tackle the two sides. All right, so I'm removing all of the excess glue, and then what I'm going to do next is tackle the two sides. As you can see here, the long edges created a natural folding point on those corners. So you're going to want to follow that and match it with the shorter edges and the shorter sides as well as you fold them over. And this is where that cut measurement really comes into play to make it a seamless corner fold. One of the most satisfying parts after you complete this is turning this book cover around and really going in with your bone folder and cutting all of those creases, especially in the hinges. Don't press too hard. I've actually accidentally punctured one of my book cloths in the past, but what you want to do is just make sure you follow those natural grooves and outline a nice clear hinge. And now taking the text block that we used earlier, I'm going to just insert it to see what it looks like. And as you can see, we have a completed book cover. This is super exciting because basically all you would have to do next is glue these two pieces together and you'd be done. But obviously we want to make it look pretty. So that will be next.